Hey everyone, it's Christopher Swan, and welcome to this week's episode of Living Your Journey. I have the amazing opportunity to chat with people that love what they do in life. They understand their passions, maybe it's a career path, or their dedication to volunteering and giving back. It's kind of like following their North Star. Even though their story may change as they go, they understand that they're on their journey every day. After the episode, you can find out more about each guest and their stories at accidentalinformation.com. So this week, I talk with Justin Michael Williams, a musical artist and inspirational speaker. And Justin has such a wonderful story that is literally happening as I record this episode. Justin is transforming his world from a social media marketing entrepreneur to following his life's dream and passion of being a musician and motivating and inspiring people with his work and his art. And it all started from a question his grandmother asked him, a story you really have to hear. And for a special surprise, I've included an excerpt of Justin's first single at the end of this episode. And Justin even shares how to download it for free. So stick around to the end. Justin is really talented and is such good people. I'm excited for you to join our conversation and to meet him. So let's jump in. Justin, thank you so much for being on the show. I am super eager to talk to you about your story because it sounds like a new adventure. So welcome.
Thank you.
So we just had this whirlwind reconnection, which I think is kind of hilarious. I wanted to bring it up so people could know about this. Like, it isn't always just my friends that I'm talking to. But over this last week, randomly I find you on SoundCloud because we are connected on Twitter, and I met you years ago through a social media breakfast, and all of a sudden now you're on my show. I love this.
Yeah, it's amazing how social media works this way, and kind of how, that was years ago. Now I'm trying to think of how many years ago that was that we met. At least like 6 or 7 years ago, right?
It must have been something like that.
Yeah, since we last connected. So this is great.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So for the folks that are listening, I have Justin Michael Williams here, and he's a singer, he's a motivator, he's really a hardworking entrepreneur. Now, I'm going to let you tell us a lot more about that, but in my eyes, for sure, and in my ears, you are this about to rock the stage musical artist. And because I heard your first single and I was like, what? This is great. Loving it. So you are so many things and you have this new adventure, but I would love even to pause for a moment and you help us understand, like, what's your world today and who are you?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's a big question, but thank you for that.
I know I framed it right.
So, right now, my world has changed so much from what it was before, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But right now, I am diving into my life's dream passion of being a musician and really motivating and inspiring people with my work and with my art. But, kind of in a way that really digs deep into the things that hold us back from being our most successful selves, the things that hold us back and stop us from living our dreams. And I've just been in this process on my own for the last 3 years, and now I'm finally kind of staring my dream right in the face and taking those final steps. I just finished recording an entire album of 12 songs. It's done. I shot 3 music videos, which are totally done. I've had the entire album artwork done. Like it's at that moment that it's really about to happen. And at the same time, balancing, right now music is costing me a lot of money, but not making me any yet. And so,
I know the story. Yes.
And everybody who is an artist in some kind of way, I think will understand this, but just balancing that aspect of, my responsibilities and my work in the world that I've been doing up until now, and how that kind of all fits into the puzzle. So yeah, that's kind of the bird's eye view of what's happening in my world.
Well, let's dive in a little bit deeper too then, because I know you have this, not going into the background as much, but so you're launching this new, musical artist career, and you're, I know, balancing the work on the side, just because we all have to make a little money as we start to build our dream. Let's talk about the musical career, because I think that's the first thing that caught my ear. Then we'll maybe dive in and unpack some of the other pieces. So you have the full album, you have the music videos. So you had this decision. I saw this video that you shared with me on Facebook, that made it was, sharing this big decision that you had made about jumping into this. Can you talk maybe a little bit more about, it doesn't, not specifically around the video, but even just what was that big decision? How did you come to it? And then, walk us a little bit through, your journey up to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So, really what had happened, I've grown up and I've always wanted to be a singer. Like if asked little boy Justin when he was 4, what he wanted to do, Justin always wanted to be a singer. It was just in me forever, and as I was growing up, I grew up really poor. I grew up in a very, very poor neighborhood in the Bay Area, and with a single mother taking care of 3 kids on her own. I think my mom made like $25,000 a year taking care of 3 kids, and so for me, as I was growing up, I knew, okay, I need to get out of here. I need to go to college. I need to make something of myself. And I did. I'm so blessed. Like I went to UCLA. I have a business degree from there. But that's the key. I shifted my focus from the music to how do I make money to be successful? Because at that moment in my life, I couldn't point to anybody who was successful doing something they loved. I just knew that success meant money back then, And so, I created this marketing business, which is how you and I met, and the social media business. And then it was very successful. It still is very successful. And about 3 years ago, gosh, I can't believe it's been 3 years now. Every time I tell this story, that changes. And it's, wow.
Right? Wow. Yeah.
But 3 years ago, my grandmother, who was very, very close to me, passed away. And it was very sudden. She was super healthy, pretty young, like 67, I think she was when she passed away, or 68. And she was super healthy. And she found out that she had stage 4 cancer. And they said that she had a few months to live. And there's that moment that happens for all of us. I think we've all had these moments in life where life kind of throws us a 2x4. It's like, boom,
Yeah.
everything's great. And here you get knocked with something like this. And we've all had these moments. And this was that moment for me. And my grandma was so close to me. I talked to her literally every single day on the phone, to the point where it was almost inappropriate. Like she'd be the person I would call in college, walking home on the walk of shame and go, "Oh my God, you won't believe what I did last night." Like that's how close I was with my.
Oh my gosh, that's fun. That's such a fun story.
Yeah, and so this happens, and she asked me a question that totally transformed my life and really changed the trajectory of my life and where I am now. When she was on her deathbed, she asked me. She said, "If you were in my shoes and you knew for sure that you were going to die in a few months, what would you do?" And it was like immediately, without even thinking, I just said, "Oh, I would stop everything I'm doing and I would record an album." And she asked me this question on purpose because she knew that that's what I had always really wanted to do. And I had gotten so far from it, over my college years and everything. And it was that moment of realigning me. And she just said, "Can you please promise me you'll do it? Promise me you'll do it." And I looked at her, I'm like, "But how?" She said, "I don't care how, just promise me you'll do it." And so I looked at her in the eyes and I said, "I promise." And so, when I made that promise, I looked at her and I really did make that commitment, not to her, but really to myself, to say, wow, this was really my dream. And yes, I'm making great money, but to be honest, I'm making good money. I have a nice car. I live in Venice, a couple blocks from the beach. Great. Am I really more fulfilled than I was when I was poor living in Pittsburgh, California? No. The answer to that was no. And so in that moment, I said, I'm going to do this. And I don't know how, and I don't know where. So I started taking voice lessons. I started taking piano lessons. I started taking songwriting classes. I even moved to New York City. I actually moved to New York really because I needed to get myself out of my patterns and habits of living in LA for 10 years. I couldn't become this new version of myself surrounded by all the same people going to all the same places. So I had to literally get myself up, move all my stuff into a storage, go to New York, dive into this musician's world for about a year, and fast forward to now, and I just, it's all done, and it's all happening now. So I can't believe, being on the other side of this is kind of incredible. But that's kind of the story of how this all has come to play out.
That's so powerful. I mean, there's so much meaning in that, and you literally had a sign. It's
Yeah.
it wasn't just like you were unhappy. You were actually doing really well. But gosh, how powerful! You must feel. I would assume you must feel. I mean, you're happy that you're doing the thing that you love, but also proud, or you would think that you're making your grandmother proud as well. Like you're really following through. You're doing what you love, and it sounds like you're all in.
Yeah, I'm all in, and it's not easy. This is the thing that I always want people to know. It sounds like, oh, and then he did this and then he did that. It's like, hold on a second, everybody. Like, I have had to sacrifice so much, and we all do. And I think people forget that.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're saying this. I literally just said this like 2 nights ago at dinner, and I said, people just like, oh, it just happens. or they'll say like, oh, it's hard work, but they don't define that. and then people just like dismiss it like, whatever, we know you probably worked hard, whatever that is.
Yeah.
But there's real truth. I love that you just saying, no, wait a minute here. You had to change your world, totally.
Yeah, I think what I always try to, say that we should all remember is when we're doing this, when we're doing anything that is going to change our lives, or doing anything that's really going to sacrifice short-term happiness for like long-term happiness, we're going to experience some form of sacrifice or some form of resistance, or, these things that come in our way to kind of create friction on our path that we have to get through. And when we come up against these things, that's the part of that builds the character, I think, that you need to become the new version of yourself. And there's just so much there, for me, like moving to New York, leaving my apartment. So many friends, were not following me on this path, and sacrificing money, sacrificing time. I mean, I had to let go of half of my business and all of my employees to make this happen, and so there was just so many things that had to happen in this way to make this dream, the place it is now. And I think I continue to sacrifice, and we always will.
Yeah, absolutely. In the middle of all of that, did you have any moments where, because I find this to be, I've had these feelings, so I probably speak from this experience. In that middle of that sacrifice, when we talk about at that, you're building the character, to be able to do what you need. Do you find, though, that even in the middle of that, that it's not always so easy? And I don't just mean hard, but like to stay on that path. Because if that's the case, what do you use to help inspire yourself to stay on that in the middle? Because especially you're living it right now. You haven't launched everything yet, and so. And I know you finished a lot, but there's still probably more to do.
Oh, so much.
It kind of never ends, I kind of think. But what, in those moments, especially over the last, I think your single came out in November 20th or something like that?
Exactly.
Oh, wow, that was from memory. So, through that, even that period, what kind of helped you keep motivated or inspired?
That's a really good question. I don't know that anybody's ever asked me that question. I think for me, there were a few moments. I'll give you one moment in particular, like a picture. I don't think I've ever told this story to anybody. But there was this moment when I moved back from New York. Okay, so my life before I left was I was living in a very nice, gorgeous 2-bedroom loft a block from the beach in Venice. Making plenty of money, driving a BMW, like that life, okay? That's, what I left. And I let go of half of my clients. I moved to New York. I moved into a studio. I moved all my stuff into a storage unit because I needed to make this happen, and for me to live music and turn myself into an artist in a year or two, I needed to spend more than half of my day on music. And I couldn't do that if I was still working with my clients 12 hours a day, in marketing. So I had to let a lot of that go, and I let half of my income go. And after I moved back from New York, my little sister, who's 21 and she's amazing, she was moving into an apartment in Santa Monica. And I had her use all my furniture that was in my guest room in LA when I was living here. And she moved like my guest room couch into her living room and all my pots and pans. And then I came back to LA, and I had this moment where I actually kind of broke down because I came back and I was sitting in her living room, sleeping on my guest room couch for a month. Okay. So,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting here like, what the hell did I do to my life? I had this moment. I was like, I'm sleeping on my guest room couch in my 21-year-old sister's college apartment. Like, what happened? Like, what happened? And like, how did I go from this to sleeping on a couch? And then I remembered, I said, hold on, you're so close. You're so close. And the reason why you made all of these sacrifices is for this vision, that you have. And I think the thing that kept me motivated through the entire thing is I knew what the other side of this would feel like. I could almost taste it. And I wrote out a vision for myself. Literally that just every time I would read it or look at it, it would just excite me to go, if my life actually turns into this, I'll sleep on a couch for another year, because this is what I'm working towards. And just to remember, I think, I'd said this to you earlier. If I really look at my overall big picture kind of happiness, it was kind of funny. Like, yes, I was sleeping on my sister's couch or my couch at my sister's apartment, and I didn't have my car anymore, and all of this kind of stuff. I was more happy overall with my life and feeling more fulfilled then than I ever was before.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that's important. I think we look at these material markers, at least I have, as markers of our success. And then when I started to realize, wait, I'm actually great. I actually am very comfortable on this couch. Like, thank God my sister's being so accommodating and I have this free place to stay. And because of it, I can spend my money that I would spend on rent on a music video. Amazing. Thank God for this opportunity. So I think to answer, go all the way around, I gave a big circle to answer the question, but it's staying with the vision. You have to be so excited, and you have to have desire for what it is that you want to create in your life to do change. Without desire, desire I think means from spirit in Latin. Without desire, there's no motion. You cannot create motion in your life unless there's something that you really want. And so you have to keep that in front of you in some way, whether you write it down, whether you listen to it and record it every morning. You have to know that you're heading towards something big. And that's kind of what has kept me motivated the entire time.
Wow, that's important. I think that's really true. It's smart. It's interesting because it wasn't just, I'm on this vision and I need to keep going. I mean, there's the aspect, like the thing you just talked about, write it down, listen to it, whatever it is. I love that. There's this other piece there that I heard that I think is so wonderful. It was that it's almost like it almost humbled you, this experience. And it wasn't that you just changing what you're going to do, the physical aspects of how you're going to make money or what you're going to follow on, but you actually just changed your whole person. You looked at everything differently. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And for you to even recognize it, to help understand that could motivate you as well. I love that. I haven't thought of it that way, but I think maybe that just happens in the transition of what you're doing.
Right. Right.
So, I know we talked about this a little earlier too, that, so we focus so much on, the singing career, which I know is going to, this is the big moment for you, if that's the thing that you're focused on at the moment, but it's not the only thing you want to do. You mentioned some of the other pieces, there's, maybe a book or some other, elements that you'll create. I don't want to give that away, and that's why I'm kind of slipping around my words, unless you want to share what those things are.
No, not yet.
So I know there are things that you're working on, but I bring this up a little bit too because I know, and you can just hear this from you just that light and energy that you have. That you're a motivational speaker. You have these different elements to yourself. So in the future, you launch your music career in a big way, and then even like looking to a year from now, what does that look like? How do you not with the products and the things that you will deliver, but who are you at this moment? Are you still motivating people, and how's that smashed together?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's funny. I've been talking to a publicist lately that I'm probably going to work with to launch this album, and she said, if you could be any other artist or like any other artist in the world, like who would you be? Because they were having trouble wrapping their head around this aspect of, kick-ass music and motivation. And I said, here's the deal. Take Oprah and Beyonce and smash them together, and there's me. That's what I told them. I said, that's it. Like, I want to entertain and have like amazing world-class performance art with really grounded, clear inspiration that for me is not like, I think I've gone over this hump, honestly, and this is not knocking anybody, but I think it's just my personal preference right now of like, there's kind of that cheesy motivation,
Yeah.
And then there's motivation that's like, let's be real here, and talk about some stuff that works. And I'm really wanting to come from that place where we talk about struggle, we talk about what's realistic, we talk about what works, and we go into the fact, there's so much motivation out there, but then there's motivation that inspires you to take action despite what you're going through. Because we all have shit going on. Excuse my language. We all have drama. We all have stuff. We all have roadblocks. It's not easy for anybody. And I want to have that on the table too. Because I think what stops people, which we were saying earlier, from moving forward into accomplishing their dreams is because for the people who are motivating them, they make it look like, oh, it was so easy. You just have to do this, And it's like, no. Let's be real here. And I think combining that with this musical element that really helps people feel in a different kind of way and connects them to themselves is what I want to do. So one thing that I'm doing this summer that I'm really excited about is I'm doing a series of, this is not officially what they're called. I'm still figuring out the exact name because this name sounds a little cheesy, but they're kind of inspirational musical storytelling kind of keynotes. So I'm doing some talks where it's like a 40-minute keynote presentation that is interspersed with music. Some people that's seen like the rehearsals say that it kind of feels like church a little bit, but without being religious at all.
Okay. So is that a good thing? Was that good feedback for you, or was that not what you were going for?
No, it is in a way. I think a less churchy. It was kind of an example, but it's not churchy really at all. But I think just the way that the music is used to underscore and highlight the message that's being communicated is what reminded them of church. Mm-hmm. And I think church can be incredibly powerful, but to me, going to church is another one of those things that like motivates you in the moment, and then you go back to your car and you start cussing out your kids. I completely forgot about what you just learned.
I love the truth of that.
So it's like, how do we actually put this into action in our lives and take this as lasting change and transformation is what I'm looking to do with people in the world.
It's so interesting. You say these words that I actually come out of my mouth quite a bit when you said actionable. I say this all the time because I agree. There's so many people or moments that we can be inspired, but then what? And how do I action that or stay inspired or have real meaning to it? I think there's it's a funny thing, these like inspirational quotes that go around, the interwebs. Some of them like hit home for me, but I also think, gosh, they've almost become this passé thing, of course. Well, they have for a long time, but it's because they're not, do people take action on it? So I love that you're saying these things, that they become real. It's let's talk about the struggle, because I agree. That's the thing that we skip over. And that's the stuff that is real for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that makes me think a little bit too, because I'd love to know, like well, maybe we'll finish out this thought first. So, okay, you're doing the summer stuff too. So I have been really kind of dying to know, and if you don't have a date or one that you want to tell us, do you have a timeline yet for when we can expect the album and some videos to start?
That's a great question. I do not have a date for you yet, but I will know soon. But it will be, more music will be coming out very soon. The music video will be coming out very soon. And the album should be out this summer, at the latest. So that's kind of I know a loose timeline, but
But
the
loose is
strategy is getting
fine.
worked on right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, of course, like any good, look at your background as well, marketing. So,
Hmm.
of course, you'll link it up to all the things that you're doing in the summer. I would, I think that was a personal question because I'm really kind of like, okay,
Yeah,
when I
I'm
can hear
ready.
some
I mean,
more. Like,
trust me,
come on,
I
I'm
am
ready.
just working my patience more than anything has ever worked my patience before because the album has been done. I mean, done, packaged, sealed, complete since December.
Mhm.
And so right now it's the other aspect of everything, which is funny. Like once I finished it, I'm like, okay, let's put it out. And then it was like, oh no, you just only doing the album was only about 50% of the work.
Yeah.
Now, you need to learn about the music business and like, how as a good strategy for getting an album out these days actually works. And so that's kind of the learning curve that I'm in right now and hiring the right help, to make that happen. So.
Okay, that totally. I have two questions now for this. Well, my first one is this: as somebody who's creative, as an artist, your work has been done since December.
Mhm.
You know, now that a few months have gone by, and you're going to wait a little bit longer, do you at any point reflect back on what you do or what you've done and think, I want to do something else, or I've grown from that, or I wish I could have tweaked it this way? Is there any kind of I wish I could do something?
That is such a good question, and I'm so glad you brought this up. There's this moment. I actually was talking to a really good friend about this a couple weeks ago because I feel like the album now, like, and what I'm talking about in the album, I feel like I'm in a totally different place now.
Hmm.
And by the time I'm actually performing this music, like right now, I'm getting my whole like live show together and putting that together. By the time I actually perform it and I'm out on the road doing this, like it's going to be so far removed from the reality that I'm living in the moment, and that's a big piece of the puzzle. So, do I wish I could go back and change it? No, because in the moment, it was and is exactly what it was supposed to be.
Hmm.
But now, what I'm going to do next is going to be totally different. And so, that's kind of, I think, an interesting thing that artists go through is by the time we're finished with our work, it's kind of like, by the time it's ready to be shown, I've already next leveled myself. I already have a whole new sound that I would like to do, and a new direction that I have in mind for the next album. But I think seeing these projects all the way through, and putting them out into the world, and I think about artists who've been around for like 20 years and they're still singing their hit song from 20 years ago. And I think you have to be able to go back to that place and remember how important it was to you at that time. And, continue to bring that to light because there's so many people connecting with that moment in their own lives, currently. So does that answer your
It
question?
absolutely does. It
Yeah.
just made me think of you have to remember the context to why you did it that way or what you were doing at that moment, because it doesn't mean that, yeah, like I totally agree. Like you probably up leveled. Like I wouldn't sing that now, or I wouldn't do it this way now. But it's not about that was bad. It was about that's where I was, and that was so on point and honest. So I think the context of that, if you can remember that, you're right. I read this somewhere. I think it might have even been Madonna. She said, it's a recent tour. She said something like, she's actually really kind of sick of doing the tours in the middle. She likes to do the beginning and the end.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because in the middle, she's like, yeah, like I've been done with this song for so long. And it's not that she's repeating it. She's like, because I've already moved on. And in the beginning and the end, it's about the excitement and the nostalgia. But she did talk about you had to kind of like remember where you were at when you were doing it. So I think anybody who's creative has to kind of go with that. So I love that you kind of made us center on why we would do it.
Yeah, and I think the thing that we have to just constantly remember, and that I have to remember, is this is not going to be my last song that I ever create, hopefully, and the last video that I ever create. And so we have to continue to put the work out,
Yes.
and we can't sit on it because it's not my level. If I'm continuing to grow as an artist, is always going to be ahead of the work that I'm putting out. And so a lot of times I think that stops artists because they look at something that they've done, and by the time it's ready to come out, they're feeling like, ooh, this isn't my best because now I'm better.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to constantly, hopefully, be better than your work so you can keep putting out better work. And so we have to just put it out. You just have to show the work, put it out, get it out into the world, and then continue to grow and evolve, as time allows. So that's kind of the way that I work on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that resonates for me. Even starting this show, I felt the same way. But you do have to put it out. And I think this translates to anybody in any job, really. It doesn't have to be just art, but whatever you're working on, you're going to get better experiences. You'll do things, better, but you have to start somewhere. And I always think about this as technology. That's why there are different versions to apps or different releases to things. You'll get better, but just hold on to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so smart. So the other question I had on there, and that's probably a shorter one, that when you talked about, now we're holding on it because we're working on the strategy and learning the business of music and marketing and the pieces that go into that. Is that at all frustrating for you now that you've finished this stuff that you've done? I'm sure intellectually you absolutely understand. I got to do it this way. I have to get it out so it's successful. But is that at all like a frustration or a challenge for you to wait?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay,
Yes.
So you're just being nice. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's the music industry in particular right now is kind of the Wild West. Nobody really knows what they're doing. Nobody really knows how to be successful. A lot of the major record labels don't even know how to make money off of music right now. There's no roadmap. And not only is there no roadmap, the road doesn't exist anymore in terms of what existed before to make you a successful artist. There's many successful artists who are making millions of dollars touring around the world who you'll never hear on the radio. You know what I mean? Because of they're independent artists or they're with indie label. There's just there's so much to learn, and it's actually quite humbling. But it can be frustrating, honestly, because a part of me just wants to go, put it out. Just put it out.
Yep.
Let me just upload it to YouTube and put it out. And then I have to remember, I try not to worry too much about who sees it and how many people see it and not hold on to the quote unquote success of it. But I do want to know that when I put it out, I've at least given it the best possible strategy that I could to release it to the world. And right now, so far, I don't have what I think is the best strategy yet. So that's why it's on hold. And I'm super spiritual and very into tarot cards and runes and reading astrology and all of that kind of stuff. And everything that I get, every tarot card, everything that I pull basically keeps telling me you cannot pick the fruit from the tree before it's ripe. That's what I keep getting every time. And I'm like, well, when the hell is it going to be ripe? I've been waiting all this time, Come on. I'm ready.
That's so brilliant. Because I was like, when you said it, I was like, yes, that is so true. But I'm like, yeah, can I get a timeline from when the sun's up and it's ripe?
Yeah, like when is this in season? Like, can you just let me know so I have an idea, But it's all happening, it's all forming, it's all happening. And
yeah.
The one thing that I love to tell anybody who's in art or really anything that's putting anything out into the world, whether it's technology or not, is one of my friends said, Justin, the music right now feels old to you because you've done it and you've been listening to it for, months now. But once you put it out to the world, it's brand new. Nobody's heard it before. It's new whenever you put it out. So it's not anything that's going to be like too late or too old by the time you put it out. It's, it'll be new when it's new and, when it's ready. So I just try to keep that in mind. Like I don't have to rush, even if it takes 6 more months, it will be new whenever it comes out. So it's
absolutely. That's so smart. I think it's one of those things you kind of have to hold on to, just like you do with the vision of where you're trying to go. You just have to remember, we're not on somebody else's timeline for this. Well,
absolutely.
I'd love to know, as you've been working on that album, or now that I know that you're finished, is there anything that you wish you kind of knew before you even started that space? Before you even hey, because there must have been a lot of lessons. I know you went. You did songwriting, music lessons, all these things. But anything you wish you knew before you started working on the album?
Before, I think, I was so blessed with the team that I worked with. They were incredible. I could not possibly speak of them more highly. It's a group called Farm in LA, and they were like angels sent from the sky. They're like very successful musicians in the music industry, have had record deals, toured the world with Pink on her last big tour as artists. And they kind of found me, or we found each other, and they kind of mentored me through this entire process of creating my album and teaching me how to write. So I was very lucky. But I think one of the things that I couldn't have, that I maybe, if I knew earlier, it would have been a little bit of an easier transition for me, is it wasn't so, at the end of the day, when I got in to record the music, it wasn't so much about my technical skill as it was about my emotional intelligence and my access to feel, like to really feel. And the reason why I think, and all art kind of takes this way, and this was a big lesson kind of for me, is art makes people feel when it comes from a place of emotion. It has to come from feeling, you know, and when you watch a video or hear somebody speak or listen to a song that moves you, that really moves you, it's coming from this deep, deep place. You can hear one person sing a song and another person sing a song, and one person can make you cry and the other person you make you want to shut it off. You know, and it could be the same song, and it's from the place that it's coming from. And so leading up to this process, I spent so much time perfecting or working on perfecting my skill and which is important. You know, you need to have skill. But I think what I didn't spend a lot of time leading up to then was really allowing myself to go into these emotional spaces and being vulnerable enough to share those spaces with people. Like a lot of my music I'm sharing, I'm talking about things that I like never talk about, you know, because like Justin, the motivating marketing guy, has always been very like PG, like sunshine and rainbows all the time, you know?
Absolutely.
And, you know, that's like, that's the image. And so to go into kind of these dark crevices and let people in voyeuristically to see, that was part of the process that I was not expecting. And that has been a challenge for me all the way through. And it's kind of my growth edge, especially as I'm going into the live performances of some of this stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. So, you know, we're really going to go there, you know? And yeah, so that's, I think, something that had I known in advance would have helped me just kind of prepare for that moment a little bit more and be a little bit more open to it. But it all worked out well in the end.
Sure, and it really does. It's going to spur such growth for you. I know it already has, but it'll continue to do that because as you are letting some of that go and you can be more, you know, open and vulnerable and raw with the folks, you know, your audiences, you're going to feel even more connected to what you're doing and to them and vice versa. It's so powerful.
Yeah, people want authenticity,
They do.
you know, and so being as real as I can has been great. I mean, being a branding guy and even growing up in my family, like image has always been everything. You know, I grew up in a family where like, as long as everything looked good, everything was good. You know, it doesn't matter what's actually happening. And so dropping that down and going, hey, I'm gonna not look good for a second here. Watch this. You know,
It's so true. I understand that as well. Yeah, and it's a whole change. It's a social change for so many people. It's a similar question, but it's taking us back a little bit further because I just kept thinking about the conversation we had with your grandmother, which is so powerful. And you knew as a young boy that, you know, it was the music for you. What is something that you wish you could, you know, like tell your younger self about following that, you know, that passion? If you could go back in time before all of that.
Yeah, gosh. So like something now that I could tell my younger self, I think, you know, I'll say this first. I think I used to have a lot of resentment for myself and my path. Even in the beginning of this process, like I'm talking just a year ago, I used to feel a lot of resentment that I didn't do this sooner because I was, you know, looking at some of my peers who were my age. I'm 28, you know, and looking at some of them and going, gosh, if I had been singing like this and training since I was 10, imagine how good I would be. I mean, I've been doing this for 3 years, you know, and I'm trying to, and I was like, God, I wish I would have done this sooner. And I finally, this year, as I've been getting into the marketing and the business piece of it, I had this moment where I went, thank God I know about business and marketing. Thank God I spent the last 8 years in this, because this is why artists get screwed all the time, because they don't know how to even speak this language, And I realized that, wow, this path that I've spent the last, getting a degree in business from UCLA and going through has actually given me a leg up in a different way. So I think what I would tell myself now, my younger self, is a little bit different than I think you would expect to hear. But I think I would tell myself that all the things that as a little kid, I think I always felt weird and different, and never belonged kind of vibe. And I think I would tell my younger self that all of those things are going to be the things that really make me special as an adult, and to just dive into them and own them in every single way, and just like let myself live and let myself shine and not hide because of what other people thought. And I think if I would have had somebody in my corner to kind of tell me that and help foster that as a child, I think I would have done a lot less therapy as an adult. But yeah, I think that's one of the things. And before, I think I would have said, hey, do music sooner, you should do it now. But actually, I don't think that anymore. I think that it happened exactly how it was supposed to.
Yeah, so. I love that. Of course, we talked a little bit about that beforehand, and I feel very similar, that you're supposed to be where you are supposed to be. There's a time and place for it. As long as you're not ignoring the signs, that's the other thing. Yeah, and I love that nurture those different uniqueness. I mentioned this to a friend as well, has been struggling a little bit with some of her story, her brand and whatnot. And I was like, it's funny because I'm like, you're unique, you're this, you're that. I said, but the funny thing is you're not. Like, you are, but there's a whole bunch of us people that don't fit in, and we fit together. And that's what you got to find too. So I would even add the layer of that. There's also community in that. So don't feel alone. Those weird things that make us unique when we were kids, it's power.
Yeah, no, and it's so interesting. Like right now, in the news, all of this about Prince, and really looking at what he kind of, the people who really were obsessed with him and the things that he stood for in society and what he inspired in people was really this idea of really being fully authentically you, and being different and not caring and really expressing yourself to be yourself fully. And I think that that's a very powerful, statement in the world. And there are thousands and thousands of people who connect with that exact thing, so hundreds of thousands of people. So there's a community in its own.
I absolutely believe that. Well, one of the last kind of probably more poignant questions, these are the latter questions I usually ask, because I'm always so curious, like for people that have struggled or that have just taken that adventure by the handles and really move forward. I always wondered what your opinion is of this. Like, what's a piece of advice you would tell someone starting off, or either they're starting off in a career or they want to go do something, but maybe they're not sure how or what? Do you have a piece of advice that could translate to anybody that you would say, hey, you want to try something? Follow this.
Okay, so in terms of trying something new or getting themselves on track to starting their own dream or something like that, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I can tell you is you have to. So I'll say it this way first, and then I'll tell you there's a second option. Like if you can get up and go somewhere else, literally like get yourself out of your house, out of your city, and go somewhere for a little while. That is the best thing that you can do to kind of spark a transition in your life. Because what happens, even if you just go for a little while, I'm not saying you have to go somewhere for a year, but I mean, even if you could, somewhere where you don't know people, somewhere where you're not comfortable, somewhere where you feel like there's newness around you and all this to be explored, and you go with the intention of starting something new. What happens is, even if you come back home, right, which most people will, even if you're gone for a few weeks, what's happened is home is the same, but now you're different because you've been gone. And so you're able to see your life from a totally different perspective because you've been out of it for a little while. And so that alone, being able to, the key here is not where you go or anything like that. It's being able to get yourself out of your habitual patterns and see your life from a different angle and a different perspective, to see what is the big picture of where I am right now, and what's going on. That's going to kickstart you in gear, because now you have a way to say, actually, I like where I'm at, or you can go, oh, okay, there's some things that I want to see different here, and to change them. And if you can't leave, I know, for some people, they're like, Justin, I can't get up and leave for 2 months. Sorry. That sounds nice, but there's no way that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think what you can do is, it's all about getting yourself around something new. So if you could go to some new places with people that you don't know by yourself, you know what I mean? Like, one thing I just did this last weekend, I went to Coachella alone. I didn't go with any of my friends. I went by myself. I rented a hotel room by myself, and I went by myself.
Oh, I didn't know that part of it. That's great.
Yeah. And I did it because I said, I want to go and experience this and meet new people and meet these artists and look at the bands and have this whole new experience, not based on anything that's familiar to me. So even if you could leave on a vacation for a week or for a weekend or 2 weeks or something, go somewhere by yourself that makes you feel uncomfortable, where you have to talk to new people, you have to get a new perspective and a new experience, and that will help kickstart you into gear. It sounds like, what? Really? Is that what I need to do? But I can tell you over and over and over, the reason why this makes such a big impact is because when we're in our habits and patterns, it's so hard to break them and create something new. Because even though so many of us have seen this, you'll go, I'm giving up coffee, right? Next thing I know, you're eating a chocolate bar every day. Do you know what I mean? So you replace the same, it's like the same thing being replaced, or I'm giving up coffee and then you're eating candy, or something like this. And so it comes in these tricky ways. But if you get out of your habits altogether, you can kind of really fill them with some new intentions more easily.
I love that. It changes your perspective. Your surroundings can change that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so smart. I love that. That's probably why I actually ended up hiking so much. I like to be out, and I like to try new places. So I love to be by myself. That sounds like I'm a hermit.
No, I do too.
It's the freedom to think and experiment, whatever, without influence from somewhere else. Well, Justin, this has been amazing. I cannot wait to hear and see what's coming next. I know it's not too soon, or not too far, rather, and it's going to be wonderful. But this has actually been, I think, a real treat to hear, because it's not just this transformation. It's also just this lovely journey, and really owning and understanding, and even having surprise moments for yourself, like the humbling of the moment, being on your old sofa there. So this has been really wonderful. If people want to follow along online, where should they go ahead and follow?
Yeah, of course. So the first thing that I'll tell everybody, and you talked about this single, everybody who's listening to this podcast can get a totally free download of my first single called Here With Me, which I actually wrote about my grandmother. So when you hear that, you'll connect to that story. At justinmusicnow.com. So justinmusicnow.com. And when you go there, you will just put in your name and email. I swear I don't spam you with a bunch of emails, but you'll get the song there. And otherwise, you can find me pretty much everywhere online. If you just type in my name, Justin Michael Williams. On Instagram, I'm thisjustin with an underscore. But if you just type in my full name, I should pop up there as well. So justinmusicnow.com is kind of the best place to go to hear the music and continue to follow the journey.
That's so wonderful. And I can say that, yes, you don't spam. I've downloaded your song, and I've, of course, followed you everywhere. So we'll also make sure to include that on the show notes and on our website on accidentalinformation.com, so they can get right to you.
Great.
So that's so great. Thank you so much for having the conversation. And I love that we reconnected. I just feel like this is maybe the beginning of something really great.
Absolutely. And I just want to thank you so much for opening up this space for people, because I think, we all of us have dreams that we want to follow, and just being able to hear people who've done it. I think, and be in this space of creativity and openness kind of gives us all this perspective to keep pushing forward. So thank you for opening up this space for us all to be inspired and really pushing towards our dreams.
Oh, my pleasure. Because as you know, this is actually part of my dream and journey. So
There it is.
if I can do it and help others, I love it.
There it is.
All right. Well, thanks so much. I know we'll talk soon.
Yep. Thank you.
This is a great story of taking chances and staying confident in your dream. Two things so much easier said than done. But Justin's doing it, and that's why I love his story. Also, I'm slightly obsessed with music, so this was so up my alley. Let Justin and I know what you think of his story. Did anything hit home for you? Do you have a similar experience? Or you want to ask a question? Or something else? Send us a message, post a comment on our Facebook page, or tweet us at accidentalinfo using hashtag #livingyourjourney. You can find out more about Justin, links to his single, his social sites, and a lot more, all at accidentalinformation.com. If you've enjoyed this episode, and before you hit that stop button, head over to the show in iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a quick review. It means so much to us, and support helps us bring in interesting guests each week and keeps the show going, really. I also love to read each of the reviews and see what your thoughts are. As always, Living Your Journey is available every Tuesday. Until next week.
I wish you